Welcome back, everyone. Andy's finally resurfaced. He's back with us. We're going to have a quick chat about Gameweek 25. We're going to look at Gameweek 26. We've got some news about some injuries, some Champions League fixtures. Let's get into it, guys.
What's up, team? We're back. Well, I'm back. And we're back in the studio with Sam. How are you going, Sam?
I'm good, mate. It's been busy. It's been fun. Nearly got caught out with that early one, even though I told people last week it was going to be an early kickoff. I had a bit of a drive to work, and I nearly missed the cutoff, but I got there in time. We managed to get it sorted. Did you forget this time, or were you all over it?
Look, I was busy, so I haven't been keeping up to date with the latest transfer news or any injuries and things like that. So I did make a transfer. I made cutoff, but there wasn't really much for me to change. So look, I kind of half paid attention, but made the cutoff.
But
is it just me?
Go on.
Oh, you go.
I said that's the beauty about planning it ahead and knowing what's going on. If you miss or you're not in tune for a week, if you're away for a week, you got business things, you got family things, your team is still well set up. It's not like we're having to clamber back. You know, we've both got assistant managers active. We can't really change too much about them. We weren't going to change them anyway. It'll be a good week to turn off a little bit. And, you know, we want to be active. We want to be focused. But at the end of the day, other things come up. Other things are more important than our little fantasy game. But shouldn't be saying that. I might get killed. But yeah, you know,
come on. FPL is life here. Yes. And here's the thing. When you have two Liverpool double game weeks back to back, are you really going to captain anyone else other than Mo Salah? Come on, let's be serious here, right? On that note, let's dive into it. Game week 25. How do we go? Sam, how do we go? Sam, do you want to do the honors?
Look, I am buzzing. Of course you are. We've just finished it off. There was a Watkins goal in there, and I thought it was going to be peppered, and then Mr. Trent comes out with the goal, gets me the 6 points for the goal, finishing on 102 points, game week rank of 896. Sales with 3, Kirkes with 2, Trent sitting there with 13 across the 2 games, Gabriel with 6, nice for an Arsenal clean sheet. Dango with 7 was transferred in. Salah captain 40, another great haul. Palmer disappointing with 2, and Burmo with 3 with just a clean sheet point. Rogers with 4, Isak 2, and Mateta 7. Again, I'm on a nice little run, no points on the bench. Fabianski with 0, Wissa with 2, Munoz 1, Hall with 0. Arnie Slot 13 points, 102, jumped up to just close to that 1,086,000. So where the plan is working, we are getting there. The assistant manager has done exactly what I needed it to do. And, you know, one more week of that to go. And hopefully that'll boost me a little bit further and I can start cracking to that top million.
Mate, very well played. And, you know, for this whole double game week, I was always worried about Konate versus Trent. And in the end, Trent came in clutch. 13 points.
And that, for this game week, that has been the difference, I think, between us. Like, you had Konate, who played the game earlier in the week, the 2-2. And it's just been playing the Wolves game with the 2-1, that Trent came on, he was in there, he went off with the clean sheet points, and then 2 minutes later, Wolves score, and Konate loses his clean sheet. And the goal this week, it's just swung my way. I think I've been moaning that games have changed and game weeks have changed against me in the last few minutes, and the last couple, it swung for me. I'm super happy. I've enjoyed watching the points come in. I was watching the game on my phone this morning, and I was just, Watkins scored, and I was like, no, it's not going my way. And then Trent pops up with his little beauty, and done and done.
I was seriously considering going a -4 for Trent before last 24 and 25 double game week. You know, you win some, you lose some. Here, I'll run through my results.
And even then, we didn't have Trent for the whole of that first game, and he didn't play the whole of the second game. So,
mate, there's a clean sheet though.
I know.
I ended up with 96 points, so 1.7 mil game week rank. Sells with 3 points. We had Huijsen with 2, Konate disappointing 1 point across a double game week. Munoz with 1, Palmer with 2, Burma with 3, Clivert with an assist, good call on Odango from your end, and Mo Salah Mr. Mo Salah with the 40. That would have been another good triple captain game week for Mo Salah. He's had 2 game weeks in a row, or 2 weeks in a row, where it would have been perfect triple captain if you didn't activate your assistant manager chip. Wood with 9, he's really been saving me. And Watkins, I was seriously wanting to ship him, but he's come through with 15 points on a double game week. I'm not mad about that. Isaac with 2, and on the bench I've got Slot with 3, Solicic with 0, Ahmad injured, so I've got an injury problem. Robinson with 2, and Burn with 0, obviously with that thrashing from Man City there. So overall 96 points. You won again. So that brings us up in our head-to-head to equal. So balance has been restored. And Green Game Week.
I can't gauge this, mate. I can't gauge it. We are just back and forth, back and forth. It's just like you pull out a 3-0 win and then bam, it comes back. So hopefully hopefully it's well and truly swung. The momentum's with me. We just keep going on that trajectory, and I just win the last remaining game weeks. That'll be perfect, I think.
We'll see. I like the close competition. It makes a lot more fun.
It's good. Yeah.
And overall game rank is 170k. So I just keep oscillating between 150 and 200. And like I said earlier, I'm pretty happy to finish the year there if I can. And I've got 107.8 squad and team value. So I've gone down by a couple of mil. I think it's because I have shipped whoever I sold for Clivert. I can't remember who that was now, but there was a bit of money tied up in that person. So that was, my game week.
So what are you on, 107.8?
107.8 is my squad value and including in the bank.
So that's our identical. We are the exact same now. That's what I've got.
Whoa, you've been making bank. There we go. Look at you climbing the dollars.
So I've got squad value of 105.8, 2 million in the bank, bearing in mind, obviously, that we both have the 1.5 million to come back from Arnie Slot when he ends that. So we're both sitting there with 3.5 in the bank. So that's quite interesting, though, because I haven't been making transfers for the prices. If I know I'm going with a transfer, I will make it early to catch the rise, but otherwise, so that's quite interesting that we've kind of leveled out.
I think because there was a period where I was ahead for a while, I've taken probably the last maybe 5 or so game weeks, I've really taken my foot off of the price rise game, and I know there have been a few plays which I've totally missed. The likes of the Mateta, for example, he's risen quite a fair bit. And that's who it was, Rogers. I had a fair bit of money tied up in Rogers.
Yeah.
So taking the profit on him, I kind of, you kind of decreased by 0.4, 0.5 there.
Yeah. So it sets us up nicely for the next little run in. So I think the things to talk about is, if you got a plan for Ahmad, he's obviously out now for the season. That's another midfield injury from the squads that we are liking, or or the players that we are interested in. Kind of came out of the blue a little bit as well. Wasn't really expecting to see that, and then he's just red flagged all of a sudden. So what's your plan? Where are you going to go with Ahmad? You got any ideas yet?
Transfer
or have you fixed it already? Right.
Fixed it already. Transfer has been made. Which, do you want to get into it now, or should we cover the game week? Game week 25.
Let's have a look at let's consider the options that we would have had. So obviously your options could be you could go go up to like a Foden or someone in that City attack, get on them early. There'd be the Nanieri at Arsenal. I think at 4-5 would be a great option. There's going for a double Bournemouth midfield and sitting on picking up a Clive or a Semenyo, or in your case a Dango to kind of go with them as well. For this week, you would have gone maybe with a Tielemans or someone like that for the double. Probably not now. Going through maybe a bit of a outside one as like Karamatoma at Brighton's done well over the last few weeks. He'd be a good option. So I think it depends on kind of where you were going. If you wanted one who was going to play, you might pick up an Mbumo, but the fixtures after the double, after the Blank 29 are not great, so maybe not. So I think they'd be the ones I would be looking at. I think
also it's worth keeping in mind we have a blank game week 29. So who you bring in, you don't want to be making another transfer if you can't field 11 in game week 29 unless you plan on free hitting. Unlikely you'll wildcard in 29 because that seems like a bit of a waste of wildcard.
Yeah.
But then also keep in mind, who do you want to bring in after 29? Because I've got Haaland in the back of my mind. I do want Haaland back at some point in time. That's the big thing, right? And having enough money to bring Haaland back is quite a big. It's a big feat because he hasn't gone down much. He's still 14.7 mil, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where if you go from Ahmad up, all of a sudden, what's your plan to get Haaland back if it's not on a wild card? And if you go, but then it's like, well, if you go Ahmad down, or even like along the same price range, who else are you going to get? So when I looked at my team, I already have a Bournemouth midfielder. I don't think I wanted to go with a double Bournemouth midfielder. Their fixtures are all right. They're pretty good, but you raised a good point. If they blank, that's I've got 3 Bournemouth players in my team. That'd be terrible. In Burma, I've already got. So I actually went with Matoma.
Aha!
Okay. Yeah, a bit of a he's been doing well. He's a bit of an outside punt. But when I look at across the board, it was either between Matoma or Nwaneri. Right, so I listened to I did watch the episodes which you did solo, and I love the Nwaneri shout. I'm just conscious that Saka is back soon. When Saka's back and Palmer's still really not performing that well, I'm going to go Palmer to Saka. So I'm keeping that Arsenal slot for Saka.
Yeah,
and it's unlikely I'll play Nwaneri and Saka in the same starting 11.
Yeah. And I've looked at moving Rodgers to Nwaneri, but I watched the Arsenal-Leicester game live, and I wasn't overly convinced, and it was a bit of a change, and then Marino came on and got the 2 goals, but Nwaneri looked good, he was putting good corners, he was involved, he got a high rating for the game, but there just seemed to be no one to finish those chances off, and because he's such a raw young talent as well, we can't expect him to be finishing all the chances he's creating either, and Arsenal just looked a little like they'd lost a little bit of their potency. So I'd like to see them again. I'd like to see them play this formation again because Sterling on that left side was lost at sea. And if they can change that up, but if you're going to take Sterling out of that lineup, the logical thing is to put Trossard out there. And then if you put Trossard out there, surely Marino goes back in as a 9. And if you do that, are you better going with Marino as your out of position midfielder or Nwaneri? And then you don't have the price. So it gets a bit tricky. So I think I'm waiting to see another game on Arsenal just to see what that looks like. But I think the Matoma call's great. He's been playing well. He's been pulling the Brighton team out. They've got semi-good fixtures from what I can see. They play in 29. It's a good little run. The only thing that would make me consider other options or where I'm going to go is that we have had that announcement of the double game week 33 as well between Newcastle and Crystal Palace. So we're dropping all of our Palace and our Newcastle players in 29, but are we going to want them back in 33? My plan was to hold Trent, hold Salah, and hold maybe Rodgers or Mateta through that. But now I'm thinking I need to hold Isak through that instead and let Mateta go. So I am losing a green fixture on the other end of the 29 if I let him go. But then we've been saying for a few weeks that maybe 30 to 32 is probably our wildcard time. So maybe we can let those players go and then pull them back again. And then it would be an idea looking at which ones we have money invested in. Like I don't have a lot of money invested in Trent because I have sold him and bought him and sold him and bought him with his injury. So I could let him go and bring him back and then hold another person. It's all up in the air. It's a bit hard. And I think another game week of information is worthwhile at this point.
The one thing to consider as well is Saka is back, I think, 3rd of March. So that's not actually that long away. So I could imagine that the formation for Arsenal would change. Would Marino still play out of position? If he stays out of position, great. Definitely bringing him in, right? Yeah. But if he doesn't, things can still change around. So that's just the one thing where I don't want to make a commitment to a player where I know the main person for Arsenal is going to be coming back in.
And Nwaneri's the one who probably has the pedigree to play as a 9, so he could be playing in the 9 with Saka on the wing, which would then give you it gives you a decision to make. Do you go with the experienced, expensive one, or do you go with the one who might get the chances and finish them off. It's going to be interesting, and I think it really depends on Arsenal's form between now and Saka coming back. Like, do they have to rush him back into that starting lineup? Do they have time to get him 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and then he's not really an option, and you may be looking at Nwaneri? But yeah, look, it's an interesting one over at Arsenal, and that's dependent on them having no more injuries, and it's just been a rolling train of injuries. So you never know. You know, we could get Saka back and lose Trossard. Yeah, difficult.
It is. Well, were there any games from 25 which changed your transfer plans at all, or pretty much still on the same train of thought?
Look, I think the Brighton game did make me look at Brighton. I haven't been looking at them, but I am watching him now. The Arsenal game, I would have, had they won convincingly and I loved him, I would have brought Nwaneri in this week for Rodgers, but just seeing the performance has made me kind of back off. Fulham beating Forest was I thought was out of the blue a little bit. I expected Forest to win that. City's dominant performance at Newcastle makes me look at their players, and I want to see them putting their form back together before I'm investing.
Just on that one.
Yeah.
If Foden had scored that game, I would have brought in Foden. It was the fact that he's had a couple of good game weeks blanked. Then we've got all these goals split amongst a bunch of people. Marmoush, for example, do you consider him now?
Yeah.
So because of that, that's why I didn't bring in Foden, but he was definitely on my mind to look at, or at least keep a tab on.
Yeah, and I've got a loose plan, like a very loose plan, that my front line at the moment is Isak, Wissa, and Mateta. But I think as we go through 30, I want that to be Isak, Wood, and Cunha. So it's like there's no room for Marmoush then, because he's played as a striker. And if Haaland starts to bang, then maybe I'm going to look at him. So my kind of City options are defense and midfield. Do I bring in a Gvardiol for a Trent and lose Trent for it's like, I've got a lot to decide on. This week, I think my options, because I do have, when we look at if I look at my team going into the blank, I've got Trent, I've got Isak, Mateta, Munoz, Rodgers, Hall. So 6 players who all blank in 29. So some of them have got to move. So I'm thinking my options are probably better to wait the week and then make a couple of transfers, because so we're going into Game Week 26 now, but between now and Game Week 29, there's a month of time. There's also FA Cup games, there's Champions League games. So, Liverpool have got 2 at home and away Champions League fixture in that time. Most of the Premier League clubs have got an FA Cup tie, so a lot can change. So holding my transfer to make those for that 29, I think is a smarter move than trying to make some jumps now. However, what do we feel about assistant manager transfers?
I'm holding. Only because, look, I'm holding. Well, on that note, shall we have a look at 26 and let's chat about the strategy around there then?
Go for it.
This is my 26 so far. Okay, so we've got Sells in goal, Hoyson against Wolves, Robinson against Palace, Munoz against Fulham, Palmer against Aston Villa, Clivert against Wolves, Salah against City, Mitoma against Southampton, Mbeumo against Leicester, Watkins against Chelsea, and Isak against Forest. I've got Slot at the moment as an assistant manager. I've already made one transfer, so if I ship Slot to whoever, they're going to need to get me 4 points back. So for me, it's not really worth it, because assistant managers don't go up in price. And I'm going to lose this assistant manager slot. I'm going to lose assistant manager slot who is Slot after this week anyway. So it doesn't make sense for me to make an assistant manager transfer. And I wanted to ship out Ahmad because he's been going down in value, and I wanted to bring someone who was going to be playing Southampton in, right? Maybe Mitoma will get 2. I'm benching Stolicic, Wood, Burn, and Kanate. I don't feel right benching Wood. But when you look at my starting 11, who else do I bench? I'm not benching Isak against Forest at home. right? This is Newcastle. Forest can concede. Yes, Watkins isn't the best, but Chelsea also just lost to Brighton, and Watkins is playing at home.
Mm-hmm.
Mbermo, I'm not benching against Leicester away. Matoma, not benching against Southampton. Just don't bench Mo Salah. That should just be a general rule. Clivert against Wolves, not benching him. Maybe Palmer against Aston Villa. He hasn't been great, but then again, Aston Villa can be gotten to. I just don't know who to bench for Wood. That's the thing. So, so out of my 8 attacking players from between midfield and striking forwards, yeah, Wood just seems to be the one I'm benching. What would you do in my situation?
Look, I think the fixtures just gone would have changed things. I think had Forest come out of that Fulham game and won, I think then you would have Wood for Isak, knowing, Newcastle have lost 2 out of the last 3, and the one they won was at Southampton. They only scored 1 against Fulham, and they didn't score at all against City. So that would be, I think, Isak out would be the one, and I think you'd be able to afford to do that. What's the ownership on Wood to Isak? Like, which one firing would hurt you more?
Wood is 44.7 team selected by, and Isak is 57.9.
Yeah, so if you're going to go safe and kind of like go with the crowd, then you go with Isak, I think. But
yeah,
it is a difficult one because you could go rogue and you could bench Salah away at City and hope that Liverpool's sluggish form does continue in and City's form's going the other way, because the way that Liverpool just snuck past Wolves, they drew with Villa, they drew with Everton. And with City winning, I know they lost in the Champions League, so they're not out of that competition. But the way that they put 4 past Newcastle and looked really good for it, you wouldn't be surprised if City come out with a win. So if they are then held and Salah's not involved, you might make a bit of a jump on the 80% or whatever who have Salah. But that is a risky move, and it's probably more of a $2 million move than a $200,000 move, 200,000 place move. But again, Palmer's the other obvious one if you wanted to go for the bit of a gamble. But again, he is highly owed, so if he does get a couple of goals, you are in some trouble.
And then that leads to the question: who do you captain this game week? Right? Here's the thing: Liverpool versus Man City is a big game. City are got to come in to want to win this.
Yeah,
they're not going to win by not scoring goals. Liverpool's going to come in on not wanting to lose this. If City are scoring goals, Liverpool have to score goals in return. Right? So that's why the captain's armband is still on Salah. We saw how much City lost to Arsenal. I do like it when I sort of saw this score. Stay humble. That's right. So my thinking here, and it could be totally just insane, is still captain Salah, because City had one good game against Newcastle away, but they are still leaking goals, and this is a big game for them. They can't not score in this one. If they need to be taking down the champions or number 1 place for them to even have a shot at this.
And I think when I'm saying that, you wouldn't be surprised if City go away and invite Liverpool in and do win. You also wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool won either. So it's a big pendulum, and it is hard to determine which way it's going to go. I think if you went with form, you'd say it's probably you stick with the Salah call and go there. For me, it's really, where else do you go? I don't have another obvious captain, so covering Captain Salah is the best move for me. You've got maybe Matoma, but again, Brighton are a bit up and down. That might be a bit of a risk. You got Mbumo at Leicester, and Brentford just haven't been clicking through the gears. So I think if unless there's an obvious differential captain, like I've talked before, I think you're trying to cover the hole, and I think that's Salah again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, that's my team, and no assistant manager transfer for me. But yeah, let's have a look at yours, and let's have a chat about, who would you go if you did an assistant manager transfer?
Yeah, so this is me. No transfers as yet. Rodgers will drop to the bench this week for me. So I'd have Sells, Kirkes, Trent, Gabriel, Dango, Salah, Palmer, and Boomer captain on Salah. Wissa, Isak, Mateta, and then Fabianski, Rogers, Munoz, and Hall. My feelings would be if I was going to make an assistant manager change, because I think my team, I don't know who I would bring in to improve the team long term, other than making it a Rogers to Nwanieri, but then would he start? Don't know. So I'm not seeing an option that I would make. I was looking at doing an Isak to Cunha move, but then I'm not sure that I want to let Isak go, and I don't want to let Wissa go when they're playing Leicester. So there's not an obvious move that I would make that would then bring me lots of points. So I think I'm just going to hold that for now. And if I was going to do the assistant manager, I would I have two options, and they would both be for table bonus. So I'd either go for McKenna at Ipswich, I think they're playing Spurs, so that's, anything could happen. And the other one is Glasner at Palace, and Palace against Fulham. Like, I could see Palace winning that one. But the only issue is if say Liverpool do beat City, let's say 2-1, so we're going to get, Slot's going to get 7 points for that one, 5 for a win, 2 for the goals. Then if we then say Glasner goes to Fulham and they don't win, or they score a goal, you're going to pick up 1 point, and then I've used a free transfer. But if they do win and they say they win 2-0, that's picking up 12 points. So that's probably worth that transfer. So it's very risky. And it's like, I think had I gone with a Moyes or an Emery previously, I'd be happy to stay there. But because I've been on the safer option of Slot for the 2 game weeks, I think a bit of me wants to gamble. And it's about how much that will, because 10 points would pop me straight into the top million. So it's about how much I'm willing to gamble on that. And then I might have to if I take the transfer this week to move the assistant manager, I then might need to take a -4 hit later to make sure I can get my transfers across the line for 29. So I think I'll wait for the press conferences, see what people have in mind. I want to see whether Gakpo's free to play, if he's going to be playing against City, so kind of know what kind of team Liverpool are going to put out, see what kind of team the Palace are looking at, and then I'll make my decision from there.
I think with Isak, if you were to transfer him out, this is the game week to transfer him out, because he's got Forest this week, Liverpool next week. Sure, West Ham in 28, you kind of wish you had him, but then he blanks. Then after that, Brentford, Leicester, right? So if you were to transfer him out, you would do it this week, and then you would have 3 weeks without him.
Yeah, and it's just that I paid 8.4 for Isak, and he's now 9.5.
A lot of value tied up in there.
So if I wanted to bring him back for that double, or for those games after the blank, it's a lot of money to do that. Whereas if I wanted to bench, say I was selling Trent, I bought him at 7.3, he's now 7.4, I can easily move him. I've got Hall bought at 4.4, so he now costs 5. Munoz bought at 4.7, now 4.8, so I can let him go quite easily. Rogers I bought at 5.1, he's now 5.7, so that's not too bad. Mateta bought at 7.2, he's now 7.3. Wissa 6.3, 6.3. So there's it's about, do I want to keep the value so I can do the Haaland move or something like that in the future? And if I do, and that's the way I want to go, then it needs to be Trent that goes, and I need to keep hold of Isak. If I want to try and play the fixtures between now and 30, then Isak's the one that has to go.
Here's the thing. You've got a mil tied up in Isak, right? So you lose half a mil by transferring him in out and bringing him back in, unless he has a max exodus. It's definitely something to consider. I also thought about shipping Isak and bringing in Cunha. But if I want Isak back, it's just going to be too difficult to bring him back in. That's the thing, especially if you want Haaland.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously between now and the next time we'll record, we're also going to have 2 game weeks, because we're going to have a quick one on another game week on Tuesday or Monday night, Tuesday next week. Unfortunately, we're not going to get another pod out to you in between that time, just with our work and family commitments. But If we have a quick look at 27 then, from there going forward, is there anything you're looking at, Andy, that you want to change, or is it really dependent on what happens in 26?
If we look at the fixtures there, the only things I would be looking at is the fixtures where there could be quick wins.
Yeah.
The Chelsea versus Southampton one, we don't know with Chelsea anymore, do we? But this is the fixture which is stopping me from just selling Palmer. I just at least want to hold him for Southampton at home. Other than that, no, not a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, City versus Spurs is one. I would have liked a City asset here, but I just don't have a way to bring Haaland in next to, like, the game week after. So I think I'm going to hold fire and just see how we go for the game week 26.
Yeah. From my side of things, it kind of depends what I do this week, but I had a loose look at Rodgers to Nwaneri, but like I said, I think I'm going to hold off a week just to see. But he will need to go, Rodgers, at some point to make sure that I have a full team in 29. So that's probably a transfer that will take place later on. For 27, this one, the one I've got penciled in is Trent to Gvardiol. Just because of City's fixtures going forward, they've got a good one for 29. I think they play Ipswich, Brighton at home. So, it's not a bad fixture for them. And they've got some decent fixtures coming up. It'd be good to have an investment there in case they do start to move on. And like in the future, for my game week 29 plan, I do want to get Wissa to Cunha, and then Munoz and Mateta. I think I'm going to try and get Milinkovic and Wood for 29. So, just thinking of those moves, it just kind of depends. But I can't carry Trent into the double, I don't think. So, I'm just trying to keep my price points a little bit. So Trent to Gvardiol kind of leaves me that price point. And I saw one of the games that City played last week, and Gvardiol has an assist to Haaland, and Gvardiol stood on the penalty spot and plays a sideways pass. What has a wing-back got to do in the penalty box? I don't know. But if he's going to get in positions like that, he's going to be someone that we're going to think about getting into our team. And if City are going to start going again, we're going to be considering their assets, and he's going to be the one that is going to go. So get him in early, and then if I want to wildcard him out, I'll wildcard him out. But I think it's a better risk going now than bringing him in on a wildcard and it falling flat. So that'll be my 27.
I would love to try and get Haaland in between now and 29, to be honest. Maybe 29 in the game week I bring Haaland in. I think I'm about 4 moves away from Haaland. So... about 3 to 4 moves away from Haaland, depending on how big of a drop I go. So it'll depend on how 26 goes, and then I think 27, 28, 29 will be setting up for Haaland for 29. Yeah. There we go. That's our plans.
Nice. Well, 2 game weeks to go before we speak again. Let's see if we are still level. If someone's got a 2-gap lead, it'll be it's a good couple of weeks to come, and it's really taking shape for that blank game week. I think we're both trying to get there without having to play a free hit, because there's going to be an option for that a bit later on. We're both assistant manager down. You're a triple captain down, so all to play for, and it's getting spicy.
Away we go! Can't wait. I already have an idea when I want to play my free hit. Potentially, if I'm not set up for the double game week. In the 30s, free hit it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, best of luck, Sam. May the best FPL manager win, and hopefully order gets restored in my favour.
Yes, we shall see. Good to speak to Andy. Thank you for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Peace.